I don't think I've ever seen a game that was so unanimously and passionately trashed the way that Fallout 76 has been. By now we've heard it 1,000 times, so I won't go into detail, but for broad strokes purposes, at launch, Fallout 76 was a giant map with very little game, but instead loads of cardboard, sad excuses for quote-unquote quests, and lots of bugs. I think the community was perfectly justified in being dissatisfied, and it's by no means a bad thing that Bethesda hears that message loud and clear. Of course, when we as a community demand that a developer spends the time and resources to fix something, it's only fair that we give it a fair shake when they invest in doing so. Otherwise, they have no reason to listen to our feedback at all. I personally have criticized Fallout 76 to a modest degree in the past, and now that the Wastelanders update is out, it's time to size it up and see if they've really fixed this game. I'm going to try to be as objective and fair as possible. These are my honest feelings about Fallout 76 now that the Wastelanders update is out. Right out the gate, the game is definitely in an immensely better position than it was at launch, even if that's not saying much. There are now real substantial quests. There are actual towns that might not compare to Diamond City or Whiterun in terms of interactive depth, but they do compare reasonably to, say, the Tower in Destiny. The NPCs are a breath of fresh air. Conversations with them are often interesting and they make the world feel more fleshed out, but in my experience, they rarely lead to anything substantial. Quest givers are few and far between, but that is sort of natural for a map that's 4 times the size of Fallout 4, so I guess that's somewhat expected. The writing has yet to strike me as great. I wouldn't say it stands toe-to-toe with past Fallout games, but it doesn't really have to. I don't take this game as a substitute for proper Fallout. The obvious appeal is the multiplayer factor. Much of the fun comes from the social element, which means the fun varies dramatically based on whether or not you have the right friends to play with. And even then, you'll find yourself wondering if your fun is really owed to the game itself as opposed to your friends. The new injection of substance that Wastelanders brings somehow makes the general world activities more enjoyable. You never have this feeling where you're scavenging and crafting for a while and then you realize, oh, this is all there is in this game. Instead, it feels like all these activities will actually play in your advantage toward higher level quests and so on. There is an unsightly emphasis on microtransactions in the main menu and also throughout the game. I did my best to ignore that and it didn't bother me too much, but it is an eyesore. A year and a half after launch, the game is still buggy. I've had critical NPCs outright refuse to acknowledge me, just standing there broken. Sometimes I load into an area and I'm already being attacked before it'll even let me move. Server issues and the likes are also still prevalent. Sometimes enemies will melee you when on your screen they're not even in your proximity, and often your own direct hits just won't register. You end up wasting ammo without dealing any damage when it couldn't be clearer that you did not miss. So even a year and a half later, the game still needs some serious polish, but when the stars align and no one gets disconnected from the server, and the bugs are minor, and you're playing with the right friends, questing in a group can really feel awesome. It kind of feels like a virtual road trip. Helping each other set up camp or build a fort is just great. Swapping ammo and sprucing up each other's weapons is fun, and when you pool all your resources to take down some big monster that would wreck any one of you were you alone, it really feels like your tactics and party management pay off. At its absolute best, the game can be a blast, but again, that relies on so many uncontrollable variables between the bugs, internet and/or server problems, not to mention the availability of your friends. Let me put it this way, had they called this a beta or early access game until this point, I think most players would be pretty content. But the fact is they didn't package it that way. They sold it in 2018 as a full game. There was no asterisk that said this is a work in progress. They acknowledged that it was an experiment, but I definitely think next time they need to have a much more extensive formal beta period than they did. And they've said that they've learned from this experience. Of course, actions speak louder than words, so we'll see. I hope it's true. Many of us bought this game in 2018, and even if they polished and overhauled it to our every expectation, it feels somehow wrong to praise a game for being a year and a half too late. Clearly they have listened and are trying to do right by us, and that is worth something. If you compare how other developers listen to fans, that usually means they promise to fix it next time, which of course entails that we as consumers are supposed to spend $60 on another game with a whole new slew of problems. At least Bethesda has the good sense to give us these updates for free. I think there are a lot of publishers out there who would see it fit to fix a game by way of paid DLC. If you already bought Fallout 76, I think it's definitely worth booting it up to see if you like it better now. Whereas if you're thinking of buying it, make sure you've at least got some friends to jump in with, otherwise there's a good chance you'll have a better time with, say, any other Bethesda RPG. Fallout 76 has been a bumpy, rickety experiment. I think Bethesda RPGs remain at their very best in single-player form, but 76 is a very different type of game. It remains a mess, but they've done a lot to make it a much more enjoyable mess. Hopefully Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6 are proper single-player experiences, and if they experiment with multiplayer anymore, that's fine. I just hope it remains on the side. If you enjoyed this video, consider checking out my other content. This is a relatively new channel, so your like and/or sub would go a long way. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.